You're listening to the Mind Your Business podcast, episode number 72. Today, we're talking all about manifesting miracles. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm James Wedmore, and I've built a 7-figure internet business that offers the financial freedom to do what I want, when I want. And I'm the first to say that hard work and hustle are not essential ingredients for your success. So, how do you build a thriving business from the inside out? This is the Mind Your Business podcast, featuring myself and co-host Phoebe Mroczek. All right, welcome to the show. James Wedmore here.
And I'm Phoebe Mroczek.
And this is the Mind Your Business podcast. And we've got another very exciting show, don't we, Phoebe?
We do. This is going to be a good one. I love this topic, talking about manifesting. I was looking back through our podcast episodes and I was like, we've done quite a few on manifesting. I think we've done 2 or 3, and manifesting miracles we have not done. So I'm excited about this one.
Yes. And since I just came off of one of our live events, Business by Design Live, I actually have one of our attendees here in the room with us, Lana Shlafer. Lana, how you doing?
I'm awesome. It's so good to be here with you and in person. I feel like I get another dose of James next weekend and get to be in beautiful Laguna Beach. So can't beat that.
Yeah, it's rare that we get to do these in person, which is so much more fun. So you're just up in Long Beach, which was great. You were in town for the event, and I saw what you're up to. I saw what you're doing. You're doing a 7-day challenge about manifesting miracles. You've got a masterclass coming up all about, like Phoebe and I said, one of our favorite words, manifesting. So we wanted to make sure we get you on the show and have a really great conversation with you. But I'm wondering if we could just start at the beginning. I'd love to know more about you. I'd love our listeners to just hear a little bit about your story and really how and why you got to where you are today.
Well, let me start by saying that I grew up in communist Russia and I came to the U.S. when I was 12. So the words manifesting or miracles were not in my vocabulary, nor any religious or spiritual teachings whatsoever. Actually, that's not true. My dad was very strange and was into yoga, which was contraband. Like, he literally had to hide the yoga books or it could have been confiscated. So I do remember a little bit about that. But we came to the U.S. and I worked for the American dream. You know, my parents were immigrants. We were really poor and I had to work for everything I had. I ended up going to Berkeley and graduating with a degree in political economy and working for an investment bank, Citigroup, and was supposed to be like at the top of my game. You know, I was earning a 6-figure salary at like 23, flying all over the world and business class and first class tickets. But I was absolutely miserable. I think I worked so hard to get to this point that it was always the carrot in front of me. You know, if I work hard enough, then I'm going to get here. And this is where the happiness is. And here I was living a large chunk of what I wanted and feeling more depressed and disappointed and in despair than ever. Because if this is all it's supposed to be, this is as great as it gets, well, I might as well kill myself, because it was so incredibly uninspiring to actually do the work I was doing. And so I ended up leaving Citigroup and going on a journey that my parents thought I was absolutely crazy to do. I moved down to Southern California kind of on a whim. And I said, I'm going to learn surfing. That was my big goal. And I ended up getting a job. I went from like $120,000 the year before earning at Citigroup to $39,000 a year working at Chapman University as a success coach for students, this company called Inside Track. And it was my first taste of actually making an impact and working directly with people and loving it. And at the same time, realizing that, well, I still have so many issues. I don't know what I'm doing helping these kids. I don't know how I can answer these big questions that they have or support them through school. So I ended up going on quite a big journey of studying yoga and living in Mexico and teaching it there, and then coming back here and going to grad school for transpersonal psychology because I really wanted to find my own happiness. I feel like everything I've done was because I wanted to fix this void that I felt ever since I was a young kid, and especially coming here, being a foreigner, so many more wounds that were created. So I eventually met my husband and got pregnant with twins. And I had already been introduced to law of attraction and spirituality. And I went to Agape Spiritual Center here with Michael Beckwith. And all of a sudden, when I was pregnant, all of a sudden it mattered more to me than ever that I actually live this, because I realized I'm bringing humans into the world. And I had an incredible birth where the tire hit the road. Like, it was over 6 days. It was a home birth with twins. Crazy, against all odds, found a midwife to do it. She lived with us for that time. The kids were born 33 hours apart. They actually have totally different birthdays. So living all of these incredible miracles, because I was practicing these woo-woo things that I didn't really believe in, but after I lived them, it became normal. It became my new normal. This is how it works. And so I feel like since the birth of my kids 6.5 years ago, I've spent all my time figuring out how I did that, how I can replicate in other areas of my life, how I can work with clients to do that. And so I quickly ended up moving away from teaching yoga and doing more movement-oriented stuff into the mind stuff, because that's where the root of everything that you want is. And so I love helping people understand that this isn't woo-woo. This is the reality. This is practical. You're doing it even if you don't know you're doing it. It'd be like somebody saying, I'm not breathing, and sitting here with me. Just because you're not aware of your lungs expanding and taking oxygen in and then breathing out doesn't mean you're not breathing. You're doing it all the time. That's one of the beauties of actually learning to regulate your breath, is you realize, wow, I can actually control my body and control my mind like the yogis do. I can stop my heartbeat. I can do all these cool things with my breath. Most people are hardly even aware that they're breathing. So to me, manifesting is actually being deliberate about what you create instead of doing it by default. It's like business by design instead of by default. Live by design instead of by default.
So I love your story, and just a crazy thing I have to point out is that first, number one, my wife graduated from Berkeley, and number two, I graduated from Chapman University.
So I'm not going to ask you when your wife graduated in case she doesn't want to reveal that. I graduated in 2003 from Berkeley, and I was at Chapman in 2006, James, but I was working with freshmen mostly. So did you hear of Inside Track coaching?
Oh, yeah. I heard of it. I had no idea what it was, but I'm going to say that you were probably in very similar circles to both my wife and I, which is that's just crazy.
There's another miracle. I'm telling you, this is my new normal. These kind of synchronicities, I mean, you can dismiss them, you can ignore them, but by the time that there's 5, 10, 20 of them a day, you realize, wow, there's something to this stuff. I am attracted to the people that have in some way resonated with something in my life. I am attracting like beings into my life.
Mm-hmm. And I think it just is a really fun game and discipline or practice to just become consciously aware and point out these little things. You know, the old version of me, you know, I think we have a very similar background in our mindset, or I would have just been like, oh, this is just woo-woo crap. But there is something magical to just point out and like be in awe of these simple yet seemingly too coincidental of incidences. And the more you point them out, the more you find evidence of them. And I just think the more rich and life just becomes. I just think it's so fascinating.
Well, I feel like besides the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you obviously first care about food and shelter and all of the basic needs. Most people listening to this podcast, I imagine, have food and shelter and their basic needs. So then it becomes, well, what matters to you? And the Albert Einstein quote with which I open the Manifest Miracles Challenge is, you can choose to look at nothing in your life as a miracle. You have to decide. It's either nothing's a miracle or everything's a miracle. And to me, miracles are things that haven't happened yet, or they are those sparks of inspiration, sparks of connection, sparks of joy, sparks of magic, whatever you want to call it, that are now my new normal. Just because it's not surprising to me, like it doesn't surprise me that I bet if we kept talking, we would find so many other amazing connections, but I still find it as delightful. I spend my whole day uncovering all of these incredible connections in my life. One of the basic tenets of psychology is that we need to make meaning of our life. And if you don't understand what happened to you or why, you are not going to be a happy camper. Because once you understand the meaning of it, you can actually derive the benefit. And when we need to have meaning in our lives in order to feel like a purposeful human being. And so I have all of these incredible ways in which my life increases meaning, little sparks of connection, sparks of magic or miracles. And eventually they become big miracles. And yeah, I can talk about manifesting $40,000 out of nowhere. And I can talk about these things that our society glorifies. But to be honest, I am just as excited to find a penny on the floor, and I celebrate that. That's something that I teach people. Celebrate the little things so that they don't seem like little things, and big things are just extensions of little things. And also celebrate these in amazing ways in which you attract elements of what you want, right? So I love meeting like-minded people. It brings a lot of meaning into my life. It expands me. It's the ultimate masterminding, right? It's tuning into the mastermind and all hearing the same orchestra. So I get off on this stuff, and talking to James about the synchronicities is just fun.
Absolutely.
All right, Lana, I have so much to say about your story. I really appreciate it. And a lot of what you're saying is stuff that we've incorporated into the podcast as well. So it's nice to see those synchronicities. But I actually want to go back to your story because I feel like there's a little piece that you glazed over. And I think it would be really important and really pertinent to our audience and to our listeners when you said that you left Citigroup and you went on a journey. And I know that I certainly can relate to a point in time when I had a corporate job and, I was doing well and all this. But was there a defining moment when you just had to stop, or did something happen, or someone said something to you? Can you take us back to that moment? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, I think it's always tricky to find one defining moment because it is obviously a snowball, right? And at some point, there's just so many moments that have added up to one ultimate sort of not being able to turn back. And I actually use this in one of my Facebook ads. The story of lying on the cold tile floor of the Peninsula Hotel in Hong Kong. This was right before I actually gave my resignation at Citigroup. And here I was at one of the most expensive hotels in a city that I've been fortunate to fly business class and do this. I can't remember what it was, but I'll say $300 million bridge loan. And I got back from this super successful experience of celebrating this deal closing and just cried my eyes out. I think I was also really hard on myself, and that was a part of the unworthiness that I realized later I was trying to mask. And I remember just eating the peanuts or whatever the hell they serve at the hotels and thinking, this cannot be my life. This cannot be my life. I hate this. I hate myself. I hate everything about this. I want to jump out of this effing window. And something changed in that moment. I also ended a really pivotal relationship in my life where I realized I was repeating patterns that my parents had. And on the outside, we looked like the perfect couple. And on the inside, I was like, oh no, I cannot go down this path. I know where this leads. This is not happy. And so all at the same time, this perfect storm came together. And I remember walking into the office, coming back from Hong Kong, and one of my managers calling me into the office and saying, what is wrong with you? You're walking around here moping. We can't have you. You're not answering your emails. I couldn't function. I went from being the star analyst to not being able to function. It got miserable enough. And they actually sent me home. I remember it was towards the end of the year, sent me home saying, take the last 3 days of the year off and come back with your head straight or don't come back at all type of thing. So It was already manifesting in my life. I am a person that has a really hard time covering up what I feel. And that was basically a requirement in the corporate world. And so I think it's worked for me now. But for most of my life, I hated this about me, that I could not hide how I felt. I could not pretend that everything's fine when it wasn't. And so I had to figure out quicker than most people because it would be so obvious to everybody around me. I wasn't good at masking it, stuffing it down, or avoiding it. I had to deal with this head on. And so I remember when I decided to leave Citigroup, first I was going to work at this private equity firm, and I was like, well, it'll be a little bit better. And then I realized, what the hell am I doing? It's same in a different package. I have got to actually go and discover what it is that makes me happy. And I knew that yoga at that point did. So that's when I made the investment to go to Southern California and then eventually get trained to teach yoga. And that just, my first yoga teacher training in Mexico is when somebody handed me a bunch of Abraham Hicks CDs. So it was like once I opened that door and gave myself permission, I was terrified. So let's be clear. I was terrified. My mom cried hysterically and told me I'm making the biggest mistake of my life by leaving Citigroup. And she's worried about my future, and all this other stuff came out. I'm never going to find anybody to marry and blah, 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 blah. And so it was a really challenging decision, but I got miserable enough. I literally was suicidal at some point. So I think that until you hit rock bottom, it's hard to make that drastic of a change. For most people, it's a little bit slower.
And when you found those tapes or CDs, were you open to them at the time? Was it like, what is this, woo-woo BS stuff?
Yeah, it was mostly, what is this woo-woo BS stuff? And what is this channeling business? And I had an experience at the yoga teacher training where I got really sick and I was throwing up for like 24 hours. And I'm so good at going back to feelings now in my life. And I can go there right now, being in Baja and having these women surround me. They did my first energy healing ever. I wouldn't even believe that stuff, but I was so desperate. I was dry heaving in the middle of freaking Mexican desert. I was like, I'll take anything you got. And here they were doing this healing on me, and I felt something. I mean, by the time you feel it, it's either in my head or in my body, or who cares, but it was real to me. And I remember thinking, okay, maybe there's something more to this energy thing and this thought thing and, intention thing, which yoga is a lot about intention and focus. So I became more open, but to be honest, those CDs sat somewhere in my car for a long time. It wasn't until I'm trying to think, when was it? I think it was going to Agape that I heard a lot of this law of attraction language with Michael Beckwith, but that was really uncomfortable. Every time he'd say the word God, I would cringe. I was like, I don't believe there's a God. I don't like that word. These people believe in some power outside of themselves. I was raised that you are it, kid. There is no God. It's you and you. You got to save yourself. Like, that was just so intrinsically in me. So what I loved about Michael Beckwith is that he said God isn't outside of you. And you don't even have to use the word God, right? You can use the word inner being, like Abraham says, or source or whatever. And that softened the blow, because this is what I know now, is that there is no God outside of you and me. To me, it is us coming together, and our souls or inner beings or whatever, that is God. It's like the drop contains the whole ocean, and the ocean is full of drops, right?
So obviously you've come a long way since then. That's so beautiful. So as you've made this transition and this shift, what would you say now to someone that might be at the precipice of that? Because one of the things that you mentioned is that the way you teach and share is a very practical, non-woo-woo approach. And what we've seen is, we have two groups of people. And I think Phoebe and I love to be this liaison, this, bridge, that you have the very practical, let's just call it the masculine energy side that writes it off as this is just woo-woo crazy. And then you have some people that are woo-woo crazies, right? We've all seen this. And I would love to know, what is the message for both of those groups as we kind of go into how you teach integrating manifesting and miracles into our lives?
I use the terms manifesting and miracles in my life, but I kind of do it jokingly, to be honest. I giggle myself when I talk about miracles, because I feel like, don't believe anything I say. I don't want you to believe me. I want you to try this stuff out and see for yourself. Only experience teaches. Words don't teach. So I'm asking you to take one of the practices that I teach. Maybe it is to write out your ideal day vision and do it in these ways that actually connects you to the feeling of it. Maybe it is focusing on the one thing you can be appreciative of at this moment versus the 20 things that aren't going well that you're not. And when you try it and you actually feel better, that's all the evidence that you need. So I feel like it has to be empirical evidence in your life. And what I love to do with people, and if I could talk to every one of your listeners, I would point out to them, is there anything that happened in your life that was really meaningful to you that you can't fully explain? Everybody has something, right? Everybody has, I didn't have high enough SATs and I got into this college, or I don't believe that I'm married to this person who is like too good for me type of thing, or whatever it is, whatever the experience of what I would label a miracle is. And I ask them, well, let's break down what you think was different in your mindset about this experience versus about the experiences that either haven't happened that you're frustrated about, or experiences that have happened that you had total expectation about. And inevitably, they will start to see that they had what I would call a good grid. Again, an Abraham Hicks term. You had a good belief. You had a belief of non-resistance about this topic. You had to be open, receptive to the support that's all around you, that's waiting to flow in, that's waiting for your command. And once they realize, whoa, okay, this is why it worked, because I was open, I say, well, take that template and place it on the things that you are now blocking from yourself. If you have amazing health and you feel incredible in your body and you've never worried about dieting or feeling wrong in your body, take the template of that health and bring it to your money mindset. You inevitably assume good things about your health if it's working for you that you are not assuming about money. So it's being able to actually do the things that work for you, take it from your life experience, use that template on things that aren't working well for you, and realizing, wow, I actually am in charge of everything that happens in life. And I want to add one thing that always comes up with this, like, well, what do you mean if I created everything? This is the big question, the big, scary, hairy question. What do you mean? Well, what about the children? What about the infants that die of sickness? What about the cancer?
That's always a big question. I think that's always stopping so many people that I have this conversation with from taking the next step forward. So I just had to interject there because I can't wait to hear what you have to say on this.
So I think it's important to look at the big picture, and it's really hard to see the whole journey zooming into the one day, right? It's like if you asked any successful person, name me the one day that turned your whole life around. They can't, because it's been a series of one day that added up to this whole thing. So if you acknowledge to some degree that things that are invisible to the eye are actually powerful and have some impact on your life, like thoughts or vibration or emotion or whatever you want to call it. It really doesn't matter. Those are just all words. Then you can start to understand that those are all around you and you're picking them up from other people around you and your experiences. And you can have 100 people in one room and listen to one talk and then ask them, what was your experience? And they would take away completely different things. So we all have these filters through which we perceive any circumstance, any reality. And so as you come into this world, you're obviously picking up the reality of those around you. You're a beautiful mirroring mechanism of your parents and your parents' parents and your environment, your education system. And so here you are picking up some sort of resistance, which I call sacred resistance, because we ultimately come into this world not to be some perfect angels. We come in to be wounded, to be hurt. And I find that the most powerful teachers, the people that have the biggest message, the biggest powerful life desire that they want to create, come in and hit the ground running with pain, because pain is an amazing teacher. It puts your back against the wall. Necessity is the mother of invention. Pain is the mother of transformation. So here you are experiencing this, and as a child, you don't have the conscious ability to shift it. You don't even have your frontal cortex developed, right? So you're regurgitating and manifesting the reality of those around you. So if you have a lot of victim mentality, if you have a lot of pain in your family, which we all do to some degree, then you are going to experience that in your life, right? And so these things happen, and I believe that there's a greater purpose to it if you live long enough to discover it. I also don't have an issue with death personally, and that's a whole other conversation. People think that death is such a bad thing. If I live my life fully every day, which I do, if everybody who I love knows I love them, if I am on purpose, in inspiration, and doing what I can, then if I die right after this episode, peace out. I am happy. I know I have eternal relationships with everybody that matters to me. I will be a beautiful angel on my children's shoulders their whole life. I don't have an issue with death. And also, obviously, if those close to me die, it will take me a bit of an adjustment for the new relationship with them. So I'm not saying it wouldn't impact me. But people use this death as the worst possible outcome. I feel like suffering is the worst possible outcome. Pain is inevitable. That's contrast. That's diversity. That's variety. That's information. Suffering is optional. It's what you do with the pain, how you look at it. So when you start to realize that, wait a minute, I lived all this subconscious experiences in my life, and all of them were there to serve me. Every single thing, the painful ones, the abusive ones, the victim ones, and my highlights and my genius and my inspiration. And I can use all of it to deliberately create a life that is custom, tailor-made for me, by me. Bam. That's when you're in your power. That's when you're in your driver's seat. That's when you can go anywhere you want and you can enjoy the journey because you realize you get to spend the rest of your life unwrapping these presents and discovering the gifts in your everyday life. How much better can it get than that?
Lana, that is so awesome. I love listening to you talk. And it's so funny for me to hear all of these synchronicities. I literally just wrote a whole blog post the other day around this one phrase that was pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And so just to hear that and hear you reinforce just that belief that, we come into the world to be wounded and to kind of grow from those experiences is huge. And a lot of what we talked about last week, which has had a great response, has been, learning to create your story from all of these experiences and how you develop and how you grow from them. And, for me personally, looking at, when I want to get down to the source of issues or anything that I need to kind of shift in my own world, it goes back to pain. So I really just appreciate you sharing that. And as we kind of move into like the actual practical side of manifesting, like, looking at the idea of manifesting as a whole, how do you feel like people are maybe making mistakes and manifesting, things that they don't necessarily want? Or, how are people doing things the right way? How is manifesting? How can you kind of bring that back to like a practical standpoint, if you can?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, they try it once and say, oh, this stuff doesn't work. What would you say they're doing wrong, I guess?
I feel like I'm going to simplify it because I like simple hacks. There's only one problem ever is that you perceive a problem. That's it. You perceive it as a problem instead of an opportunity, instead of a discovery, instead of a gift, so people will say, okay, well, I'm in a terrible relationship and I have no money and my business is not taken off the ground, or whatever story that are very real. I'm not minimizing it, by the way, when I'm saying it, because I've been there and I know the pain. Looking back, it's not serious to me, but at the time it was so serious. I mean, I had all my Russian intensity behind my story. You know what I mean? I'm just intense about different things now. And the biggest shift was to realize, what if nothing's gone wrong and everything's gone right?
I love that. That goes back to the Tony Robbins in his documentary. He goes, life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you. And that was a huge shift for me. I was like, right, let's go back and just reframe everything. And so I totally see how, just that little shift, as opposed to, oh my gosh, look how miserable my life is. Look where I've gotten this far. Maybe I should be further ahead. It's like, well, no, all your experiences have prepared you for this one moment. So I can really appreciate that.
Well, I think if you understand momentum, if you understand the snowball effect, is that you'll realize that if you've been telling the story your whole life, then you have a lot of momentum around it. It's like, think of a train going 100 miles an hour. If you want to turn around and go in the other direction, you have got to slow it down. So in my Master Your Life Academy, it's my signature program. The whole first month is understanding momentum and understanding how to slow down the train of what you don't want. So how do you slow your own resistance, slow your own intensity about things that are off, that are in your face? It's really hard to get away from chronic pain if it's in your face, or from a relationship that isn't working if it's in your face every day. So how do you slow down the momentum? Those practices of meditation, allowing, receptivity. I am a big proponent of getting into your body, because your body by definition is more general and holds less resistance than your mind typically. So if you can allow yourself to wiggle your toes, put on some music and dance, go to the beach, get in the water, it doesn't matter. You could sit there and, paint on your wall. It doesn't matter what you do, as long as you step out of the patterns of thought that are keeping you stuck, that don't feel good in your body. You know when it doesn't feel good in your body. I do this exercise with people. I'm like, if you tell me I don't know how it feels in my body, take a deep breath. And now imagine you are at the beach. And the sky is clear and there's beautiful birds, and just notice your breath and notice your chest, and it just feels so good. And your chest is open. And now imagine yourself sitting in traffic and honking and kids yelling. And all of a sudden, if you pay attention, your chest closes in, your body starts tightening. You feel tension in your whole body. Your body is always telling you how you feel. So if you have a lot of momentum going, you've got to slow it down and then slowly add positive momentum. So a lot of people try to take the most miserable experience of their life and make it positive. You can't. You can't get there from there. You have got to first go a little bit more general and say, okay, I know that sucked, but let me just refocus on something else until I can feel a little better. When I feel a little better, I can start to feel a little better after that and a little better after that, right? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. So start little by little with things like going to bed at night and counting the 5 things that actually meant something good to you in your day. I call them magic moments or miracle moments, something that actually resonated. I'm going to go home tonight and one of my things is going to be, wow, that was an amazing conversation with James and Phoebe. I'm so grateful for that, right? So you start by 5 things. And by the end of doing this for a few months, you can't even remember your problems because your mind is so full of the things that are working well, that are going well. It's the same thing like, how do you dispel darkness? Well, you can't make darkness go away by doing anything with darkness. You've got to turn on the light and it will fill the space where darkness vanishes. That's the same thing with transforming your life. You can't release or break down blocks or patterns of negative thought. You just start new patterns of thought that eventually become dominant and automatic. The same way you had to learn to drive a car, you couldn't really figure out where the turn signals are and which gear you're in. You needed to focus on it. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of practice. Eventually, you can drive the car, sing, talk on the phone, whatever you need to do. That's the same way that it becomes normal.
Got it. And I love it. Okay, so as we go and whittle this down a bit, and I know one of the things you said you were going to share with us are the 4 ways of visioning, 4 ways that we can actually start this as a daily practice of manifesting. But I'm curious because right now you're in the middle of a launch and a lot of, if not most of our listeners are business owners and entrepreneurs doing things like marketing and launching and promoting. And I'm just dying to know, I'm so curious, how are you using all of this when it comes to your launch? What are some of the practices or just the thoughts that go through your head? Because, we both know that going through a launch can be chaotic. It can be uncertain. It can be long hours. How do you approach it differently than you would say most people do?
Well, like anybody, I learn from practice. So I've had a few launches under my belt now. This may be my 5th or something. Big-ish launch. Now there's a couple of team members with me. Initially it was just me by myself. And so why don't I talk about the 4 types of visioning and how I'm practicing it currently? And some of them are more dominant for me. So I'll mention that because those are the ones that I'm going to be using more. So with anything with launching, I feel like it began way before I actually publicly told anyone about this. It began with an idea. It began with the idea that I want to create something or something is compelling me to release something into this world that is going to be powerful for people. So I sit with that idea until it brings me to an orgasm. You know what I mean? A vibrational orgasm. It has to be so effing good or I'm not going to do it.
You know what she means, Phoebe?
I need a cigarette after that idea, right? That's how good it has to be.
And I love this as much as Phoebe is not taking this seriously. This is so huge. This is so important. I look at our signature program, Business by Design, and I remember when I made the decision to do this. Like, I know where I was standing. I know what I was thinking. And that was 2+ years ago. And I didn't force it, just like you don't force a flower to bloom.
Or an orgasm.
Exactly. It has to take its natural course. I think that's so important. So I love that.
So probably like James, he can look back and see where that idea originated and all of the ways that it developed. But at the time, you're just enjoying the idea. And obviously, it was born from a need. I saw somebody needing this experience. And so I started creating it. And everything happened very organically for me because I decided at that brink of misery, depression, and suicide that I am never going to do anything that feels like, pardon my words, but self-rape. I am not going to do that. That is what generations of my people have lived. I'm Jewish and Russian and, there's just so much suffering that has gone along. I decided at some point I'm not going to put it on myself. So I have to look, if choice A or choice B doesn't seem appealing, there's got to be a choice C. So I look for that path of least resistance. So once the idea came, I basically, I was in Marie Forleo's B School and I had started learning about online courses. I started developing little by little. And it was incredible because the idea was so much bigger than me and because I wanted to share it with others. I remember posting on Facebook, like, I have the idea for this incredible course and I actually attracted people. One project manager that showed up and said, listen, I'm out of work right now and I really want to get started with this business. Can I work with you? And I said, I can't pay you. I've made no money with this. And I just took money out of my 401k to start my business. And she said, all right, I'll work for a cut of your profit. She worked with me for 5 months without a penny. That is one of those miracles that has now become my life because the idea was bigger than me, because it had developed and matured and ripened and it started bearing fruit. And these people were coming to be supportive. And I had challenges to receive the support. So a lot about launching for me has been the more I can allow to receive support and let other people do what's in their zone of genius and butt out and focus what only I can do, the easier it's become.
I think this is so great, and I want to sit here just for a moment because I remember an example with one of my coaching students where he attended an event and he comes back and he was in like a really big breakdown. He was really upset and frustrated, and I said, what's going on? And he talked about how everyone there had a 12-month plan for their business and a 5-year plan for their business, and he didn't. He's like, I really don't know what I'm doing next month, let alone next quarter. And he was really, beat up about it. And how I got him to help shift it was, I think, exactly what we're talking here with Lana, is that this was an opportunity for him to see that this is what he needed, that this is what he should have. And it was, whatever you want to call it, the universe giving him a sign like, hey, you should have a plan. But it's so funny that, and this is why I wanted to stay here, is because it's so easy for us to have the idea and get excited about the idea. And if it hasn't shown up fast enough, if it's not there, we're immediately upset. It's immediately a problem. Like you said, something's wrong, or we're frustrated. And I think that's where we're pinching it off. I think that's where we're going all wrong. Instead of going, okay, now I know that this is what I want. I can't wait to enjoy the process and watch as it unfolds each and every day. It's like pressing play on your favorite movie and the credits roll. It's already done before you started. You got to enjoy every little piece of it coming together.
And that's something I have such a hard time with, or I have in the past. I still do. I just want to be done with it. I just want it to be over and finished. And the whole creation of a mastermind or a course or something like that, for me, it's really hard to just take a step back and, like you were saying, Lana, like slow the train and just really appreciate where I am right now, where I am in this moment. And oh my gosh, I live in a great city where I am able to work from my home. What a great opportunity. And I think that, James, your coaching student, I've had so many moments like that where I'm in a breakdown and I'm like, wait a second. Well, I actually needed this right now. This is the kick in the pants that I needed to have that next kind of breakthrough moment where maybe I don't know what that looks like, but, moving forward and moving the train, starting the train back over or getting it going will really just help propel me to where I need to be tomorrow. And so just really taking that in and appreciating that step has been something that I personally am working on at the moment.
Right. And I feel like it goes down to why. Why would you skip over all these parts, right? And so some people call it receptivity. I call it self-worth. And my definition of self-worth is how much good I can allow, how good I can allow myself to feel in the moment. If somebody brings me something for dinner and I don't like it, can I allow myself to say I'd like something else? From a small thing like that to big things, not forcing myself to do something that doesn't feel inspired, doesn't feel exciting because I have some idea about an outcome that is obviously, I'm getting the red light from my own inner guidance saying, don't go that way. This is, you're going to get run over by a train if you proceed. My emotional guidance is always telling me, here's a green light. Path is clear, feels good, keep going. Yellow light, I'm getting slight signs. I did end up getting sick for one day during my launch a few days ago. I'm still a little congested. Blessed be the sickness. I was so grateful. I caught the signs really early. I did my challenge video that day and I told him I'm so grateful that I got sick because it was alarm bells going off. Hey, Lana, slow down. Yellow light. You're not going to get to where you want to go if you keep going in this direction. But so many people completely ignore it, right? So the self-worth piece is so huge because I couldn't allow myself to receive in my life. I was taught this whole independence thing that you need to be superwoman and blah, 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 blah. And I derived a lot of self-worth by seeing, let's see how much I can do on my own. And I really have had an evolving relationship and it keeps evolving for me. I mean, I'm by no means like, have arrived and I'm never going to grow in this arena. I'm sure it will keep getting easier and easier to be receptive to the support, to the love, in whatever way that it comes in. But I know what people are going to say. Well, I'm a solopreneur. I don't have this. The more that you focus on the way that you don't have it, just think of your phone. Let's call your phone or the programs that you have on your computer that allow you to do your business as your support people. Think about what your email system does and how 20 years ago you would have needed a person to email all those people. Start by looking at what you do have, no matter how small it might seem to you, and you will gain more of it. So back to the 4 ways of visioning, this way of receiving the idea, right? And recognizing when it's a green light, when it's a red light. I would go into visioning in the traditional sense, the guided imagery. That's one of the ways of visioning, right? I close my eyes. I do kind of a mind movie. For me, it is more about the feeling than some kind of fancy, artistic art, creation of a movie. It's more about, how would that feel? And I just imagine I wanted to see the participants in my program wake up, light up, feel more empowered in their life, more hopeful. And that idea is what drove the rest of the process. I was allowing that to be in the driver's seat. So then I find it useful to put it down on paper. I also, by the way, do not have a 12-month plan. Heck, I can't think about next week. I have 5 people in my family plus a dog. I cannot predict, but I have intentions. I know how I want to feel. And I know if that North Star is guiding me in the right direction, if I'm on track or not. So I would determine and write down how I want it to feel. And the act of writing it down makes it more tangible. I call this written visioning. And there are many, many ways to do written visioning that I talk about, but in some way concretizing how you want it to feel. Some people write out all of these vision and these scripts. That's fine. I don't tend to be very articulate about it. I just write feelings down and think about the feelings. The next way would be spoken visioning, which tends to be hard for most people. It would be for me, for example, let's just use the example of this launch, right? I'm in the middle of a launch. How do I want to feel as this launch is happening at the end of a launch? I want to feel so lit up from the inside. I want to be waking up feeling like it's Christmas. I get to talk to people about what I love most. I get to see them invest in themselves in this incredible way that I know is going to brighten up and improve every single thing in their life. I want to feel the unity and the connection in our group. I want to feel that leading edgeness that people are saying, oh my God, I've never thought about this in this way before. I want those light bulbs going off, and I want to feel this in my own way. I want to celebrate each single person that is now added to my, I call it Mila, Master Your Life Academy, to my Mila family. It is a family. I feel like they have just joined my family. I got another family member. How exciting is that? Right? So I go in and in and in, especially if I'm getting overwhelmed, if I'm looking at my to-dos, if somebody on my team majorly F's up, that's the time that I got to pull myself out of that stinking thinking and into how do I want to feel? And it's amazing how once you realign, the actual circumstances change. Wayne Dyer said, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. I'll be mad at the team member for doing whatever they did that was messed up, sending out the wrong email at the wrong time or whatever. Then I'll go back and realign, and they'll come back and say to me, oh my God, somebody just replied, and this actually was the perfect thing. And here we are, because I believe that nothing can go wrong. Everything is serving me. And when I color it good, it becomes good. I believe that I get to decide how this circumstance impacts me. Whatever I ascribe to that situation is what I will derive from that situation. So it is that mental work of realigning. So let's say I'm feeling really good about the launch. I'm doing these 3 modes of visioning. The last one is maybe the hardest one for me because I am so rational. It's creative expression. And that would be expressing it in some non-verbal way. So one of the ways that I found to do this, I'm so excited to do it for this launch, is I have a drawing. My goal is to have 200 participants join this time. I have a drawing that stems from the academy, like imagine a circle in the middle and a bunch of spokes, and there's actually 2 poster boards. So there's 100 on each, and there's circles in there, and I imagine that that's each of the participants. And each time somebody's going to join this time, I'm going to write their name in that circle. And so I look at that paper, and just the act of drawing each circle, like I did it with my hand, 200 circles. It was the act of celebrating non-verbally the accomplishment of this amazing launch, the success of each person who's joined, and what I know is going to happen for them, and the blessings they will feel, and the blessing I feel. So those are the 4 modes of visioning. They're not extensive. There's lots of other things that I could talk about, but I have learned over the years that for some people, you tell them to meditate. And if you've had any kind of trauma, especially body trauma, that meditation a lot of times can re-traumatize you. I learned that in grad school in mind-body psychotherapy. You don't have to meditate. You can be an amazing miracle maker and deliberate creator in your life without meditating a day in your life. You can find your own way. Some people, my husband surfs. He doesn't meditate. He goes out, dolphins come to him. He comes back saying, oh my God, there was a seal, there was a dolphin. He always has these magical experiences of connecting with himself and with nature. He doesn't need to meditate. He doesn't do gratitude lists. He found his own way of attuning. So I am always encouraging people to look for their way. I'm going to offer you a menu. I'm going to encourage you to focus on it and explore these things. But ultimately, and you know when it feels good. It's the same way you don't have to tell people like sex feels good. You know, again, if you've been traumatized, there's a bunch of healing that you could do around that. But it just feels good. You don't need to know what to do. Your body knows. Your whole being resonates when it feels right. So I feel like if people attune to that feeling of right and deliberately focus on it, it will blossom in such incredible ways in their life. And by the time they're becoming, it becomes more automatic. They start to realize, wow, this is so easy. This is when it becomes easy. This is when you realize, wow, I've been doing it my whole life, but not in a way that I wanted to. And now that I actually know how to do it, it is so much easier than I imagined.
Okay, that was awesome. So Lana, can you quickly recap those 4 ways of visioning that we can use to start manifesting?
Yeah, and we can link a blog below where I have all these 4 listed. I actually have a blog for each one. So guided imagery or visualization, as people like to call it. Written visioning, scripting is another word for it, or gridding. There's lots of words for it, but where you write down something about what you want to feel, what you want to experience, your intention, your goals. Spoken visioning, I didn't talk that much about that one, actually. That's where masterminding comes in. That's where looking in the mirror and doing affirmations comes in. For some people, it's a completely useless exercise because they don't believe anything they're saying. Some people say, I love you to themselves. They're like, the angels come out of the sky. And, that's the masterminding that I do, actually. It's all connected to visioning, is I allow people and give them encouragement and permission to actually step into their vision verbally and then do some creative expression, which is the 4th way of actually embodying it in themselves in any way that resonates with them.
Awesome, Lana. And now before I forget, I know you're doing a live masterclass. It's coming up really quickly. Can you just talk really briefly about that?
Yeah, so I'm doing a Manifest Miracles masterclass, and you guys are all invited. As a matter of fact, I have a special invitation for you, and you can go to lanashlafer.com/mind your miracles. I'm sure there'll be a link. And in this masterclass, as you can tell, I can talk. I'm going to definitely leave room for practice because, like I said, it's not through words, it's through actually practicing yourself. So this is going to be a workshop where we are going to talk about 3 key mindset shifts that are necessary for you to go from living the reality you are that maybe isn't where you want it to be to creating a new one and making it your new normal, and 3 practical ways that you can do that.
Perfect. And everyone, again, that link is lanashlafer.com/mind your miracles. I love that. And I also love that we're bringing guests like you on the call, those who, have this practice and have not just learn to use it, but learn to teach it effectively. So this is amazing. And then you are a business owner. You're using it as well. So before we wrap up this episode, I just want to check in with Phoebe. Phoebe, is there anything else that you'd like to ask Lana in order to call this episode complete?
Lana, I just want to thank you so much for being here. Everything that you said, I'm excited to go back and listen to it because there's so much actionable advice that you've given us. And I just really appreciate you being here with us and sharing all of this amazing stuff. I can't wait to go through your masterclass and just to learn more about and really fine tune and hone my own manifesting skills.
Yeah, seriously, Lana, thank you so much. And I appreciate you coming down here on the weekend and spending time with us and preparing all this for our listeners. So let me ask you the same question. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners in order to call this episode complete?
Yeah, I want to say thank you so much to James and Phoebe, who I just met today, but I've been listening to the podcast. But James, you've been such an inspiration because I feel like you weave the practical ways to actually enjoy your life and enjoy your business so well. And as somebody who is a member of your Business by Design program and who did the live event, I feel like you do a beautiful way of inspiring people to inspired action, not just motivating action or being busy for the sake of being busy. And that's been the key for me in my business, is to actually approach things from a place of alignment and inspiration. I love action. I dive into all of James's training and I get excited about my funnels and my sequences, but it's because I am inspired by the actual action of it. And it feels so good to me to be in the momentum of it, right? So I feel so grateful that you are sharing this information with so many people who are going to be introduced with it. And I'm so grateful to be a part of the program. And the live event was amazing. Probably the best live event of that size that I've ever attended. The connections between people were so incredible. Hearts were opened. Minds were blown. It was incredible. I'm a big fan.
Wow. Thank you so much, Lana. And that's such an amazing compliment. And you led a little meditation while we were there. So that was really cool. So thank you. Thank you so much. And I also thought it was really great just to have you here in person in the studio. It's really fun. In fact, Phoebe, you're coming down, aren't you?
I am. I'm coming down on Wednesday. And I did want to just kind of give the podcast a little shout out and let you know what we're doing, because actually Saturday, which is the time of when we're recording right now, today is our 1 year podcast anniversary.
Wow. I didn't even know that. See, there's more of that synchronicity in my mind. Like,
exactly.
This was very last minute. We talked about it last night, yesterday afternoon, and here we are doing it. And it's exactly a year.
Yeah, I was really excited to kind of share that. And I know that when I go down there, in order to celebrate 1 year of doing the podcast and a year of amazing episodes, and also to celebrate that we hit 500,000 downloads.
Woo!
Which is so exciting. It's a little overwhelming for me, to be honest. I always forget that people are listening.
Real people, Phoebe.
They are real people, and I forget that all the time, but I really so appreciate it. And so I did want to let you guys know that while I'm down there, we're going to be doing some Facebook Lives and being on video, and we're going to do a couple really cool giveaways that I'm so excited about. And we will kind of post that in the show notes as well. And if you just follow, I know, James, you're going to be streaming it on your Facebook page. I'm going to be streaming it on my Facebook page. So stay tuned and keep an eye on your Facebook, and we will see you live on video.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you again, Lana and Phoebe, for being here, and we'll see you on the next episode. Are you frustrated that no matter how hard you hustle, no matter how much you get done in a day, you still feel like you have little results to show for it? Do you feel like you're doing everything right, but there's still something missing? Well, what if there was an easier way? What if your business could be fun, effortless, and profitable? Phoebe and I have put together a free audio MP3 for you, compiling the 77 business affirmations for creating success from the inside out. And we want to give it to you absolutely free. This is your chance to rewire your brain for bigger results in your life and your business. To get instant access absolutely free, simply visit 77affirmations.com. That's the number 77affirmations.com.